If you ever feel useless, just remember that Arknights has the Abjurer archetype, the most useless archetype in the game. That sounds very harsh, but reality is often disappointing. And if you think about it for a second, supporters are just casters with extra gimmicks. For example, the Soulbander slows down enemies, summoners can summon dragons, robots, and even tentacles. Some of these archetypes have better usage than others. The number one problem with Abjurer Supporters is that this archetype doesn't have a specific niche to fill in. So Hypergriff decided to make them a sort of alternative to medic operators. That's just a theory, don't take it too seriously. This was changed right before the release of 9-Colored Deer. But hold on. Unlike Tsukinogi and 9-Colored Deer, Quercus is different. Her kit was built around healing instead of buffing. But the question is, how good is her healing? And can she replace a medic? Well, in order to answer those questions, we'll have to dive deeper into Quercus' kit. Quercus is a 5-star Abjurer class supporter. Why is this word so hard to pronounce? Her stats are nearly identical with the other two operators in the same class, except that she has a significantly higher defense. However, her talent is completely different than Tsukinogi and 9-Colored Deer. And, dare I say it, it's actually pretty good and functions properly. As long as the operator's HP within Quercus' range is above 70%, she will grant them 14% shelter at Elite 2 Pot 1. This talent in itself is a small yet nice improvement on the usage of shelter because operators don't lose this buff when they are healed. It's like when your parents took away your PlayStation for cleaning your room. Despite this improvement, shelter is very rarely used because it barely has a noticeable impact, unless you're facing a large swarm of mobs or enemies that have the firepower of a tank. You're better off just using several medics and a defender to make sure your operator doesn't get sent to the Shadow Realm. Unfortunately, Quercus has the weakest shelter effect because there is no way to increase its effectiveness, and both of her skills are focused on healing. Quercus seems like she wants nothing to do with shelter. That's evidently shown by her skills. I mean, this does make her a more versatile operator, but she risks falling into the trap of Jack of all trades, Master of none, which is a dangerous trap for any operator to fall into. Anyway, Skill 1, Earth's Benevolence, permanently increases Quercus' attack by 30% at level 7. This skill also allows Quercus to switch between a subpar caster and a subpar medic. The healing power is decent. I would say it's almost as good as a 4-star medic, but with a slightly faster attack interval. However, I would not recommend relying on this skill as your main source of healing because it lacks the utility that the best medics bring to the table. In addition to that, I also don't recommend investing into its mastery, as the materials for mastery are quite expensive for such little gain. Moving on to Quercus' second skill, Echo of Life. With this skill, her attack speed increases by 45 at level 7, and Quercus grants 1 SP to allies she heals. The increased attack speed makes for a better healing than skill 1 in terms of healing per second, and with skill 2, Quercus becomes an SP battery, which overall is a great utility to have since it contributes to shortening the skill cooldown. What sets Quercus apart from the likes of Liskarm and Warfarin is that she synergizes well with operators who inflicts self-damage, such as Ak, Ifrit while using skill 3, Fiametta, and Gavial the Invincible while also using skill 3. For instance, Liskarm is one of the best batteries in the game, but she is just a defender and can't heal. Warfarin, being the vampire she is, she sucks the life out of any operator she heals using skill 2 and causing more damage, which is not good for the aforementioned operators. This one advantage that Quercus has over the other two battery operators might have been her saving grace from being abandoned and collecting dust and never to be used again. Keep in mind that her healing does not work on Juggernauts and enmity guards, and therefore they are not able to receive the SP bonus. Same goes for operators at full HP. And if you are looking for mastery, this skill is definitely the one you should invest in because she gains a lot of attack speed, capping off at 60 at mastery 3, and even shorter downtime. So, should you build Quercus? Probably not. Can she replace a medic? I don't think so. If you already have a 5-star medic or a few decent 4-star medics, I don't recommend investing into Quercus all the way to Elite 2. But let's say for some reason you have a lot of materials to spare and decided to max out Quercus. It's not the end of the world, and she still works well in some situations. For instance, there could be a CC risk where you're not allowed to bring medics, so you have to settle with Guardian Defenders or Quercus herself. Another example would be during integrated strategies. Your RNG is terrible and you can't seem to get a medic in your team. If that's the case, then Quercus will take that role temporarily until you get yourself an actual medic later down the line. At the current state of the game, Abjurer Supporters is the weakest archetype so far. Their shelter effect might work in some situations, but otherwise it's very weak with barely noticeable impact. Hopefully, this archetype will improve in the future and we'll get to see more use of it. That's it for this video. If you have anything to share, put it in the comments below. I'll see you next time.